What's up guys, CEO here with week 11 of the NES. This week we are taking on JTN 2000, coach of the New England Rowlets. He was actually the champion of the NES last season and kind of kicked our ass when we played him week 1. So we're looking for revenge even though he kind of hasn't had the best season. You'd think he's been like super busy with a new job and has not really gotten to really gel with his team very much. But we finally found time to battle this week, thankfully, so luckily we still have a battle for the channel. Since we locked up playoffs last week and since JTN's already out of playoff contention, I decided to have a little bit of fun with this team because there's one set that I've always wanted to run since I've drafted / had Miltank, and that's a Miltank with rollout. So even though it doesn't actually do like really anything against his team, since only Entei and Scyther I believe are weak to it, I still just kind of said fuck it and ran it anyway. So getting into what I have this week, we have a Life Orb Miltank with Thick Fat, the coverage of Rollout, Earthquake, Milk Drink, and Heal Bell, 252 attack, 252 plus speed, and 4 defense. This basically allows me to outrun most of the common Entei that are kind of out there. I happen to notice that he wasn't actually a shiny Entei, which is interesting. Or at least it didn't show that in the battle. I don't know if it actually did. But in most instances, if I was running this Miltank, I would probably run Ice Punch over Rollout because JTN's team is very weak to ground / ice coverage. But I went for the meme and went for Rollout, I guess is the end of that story. Next up is Leftovers Kartana with Knockoff, Sacred Sword, X Scissor, and Substitute. 4 HP, 252 attack, and 252 plus speed. This basically just allows me to outrun any kind of Landorus that's not scarfed, and basically get a substitute off. If I can wear stuff down with Toxic Spikes, which the next thing has, I can just kind of sub-stall for a little bit. If I can get a switch, get a free substitute up, and kill something, Kartana just kind of ends up punching holes and stuff. And Knockoff, Sacred Sword, and X Scissor are all really good coverage. It's kind of weird to have a stab-less Kartana, I guess, but I just noticed the coverage worked out a little bit better, I guess. Next up is Focus Sash Selgor with Unburden, Spikes, Toxic Spikes, Yawn, and Hidden Power Ice, 4 HP, max attack modest, and max speed, because I wanted to basically pressure Mega Sceptile to basically be full speed. If not, it'd potentially be able to outspeed and hit it with an HP Ice. But this thing's mainly meant to get up Spikes and or Toxic Spikes depending on what he brought. The set, or the team that he brought, seems like it might be a little bit weaker overall to to Spikes over Toxic Spikes, so that's probably what I'm going to be prioritizing in this battle. If he didn't bring the Lando and he brought like a fully grounded team, I would probably try to get Toxic Spikes up and just like wear stuff down with regular poison damage. But since he has Lando and Magearna, kind of more just leaning towards Spikes just to do consistent damage to everything, I guess. Next up is Assault Vest Tapu Fini with Surf, Moonblast, Ice Beam, and Shadow Ball. Even though I'm Assault Vest, I'm actually max special attack, max speed Jolly, just to kind of be able to outrun like bulkier Enteis and stuff like that. It doesn't really actually help me very much on his team, but I wanted to kind of mix things up a little bit this week and kind of play with some sets that I haven't really run before. So Offensive Assault Vest, Tapu Fini is one that I've been kind of wanting to run for a little while, just to kind of break things down mid-game, I guess. Next up is Mega Alakazam with Psychic, Hidden Power Fighting, Shadow Ball, and Counter. Fun fact, Mega Alakazam can actually take a Choice Banded Extreme Speed from an Entei. It doesn't take it very well, but it can, and then Counter just completely wipes it off the face of the earth. So the plan is for Mega Alakazam to stay healthy and then take a counter, or to be able to counter Entei and then just kind of kill stuff from there. Him bringing Sneasel is a little bit scarier because it means I can't just like freely spam Psychic, but I do have HP fighting for that if I can try to catch it on a switch or something. And that's 248 special attack, 252 speed to speed tie with Mega Sceptile, by the way. And finally we have Ogwav Berry Shuckle with Gluttony, basically to eat the berry at half instead of at 25%, with Sticky Web, Power Split, Earth Power, and HP Ice. Max HP, 132 defense, and 124 plus SPDF. I was trying to look for another Shuckle set to use this week because I kind of wanted webs, but I also didn't want to just bring the same web set that I brought every time. So I was looking into some other stuff and found Power Split. Realized that Power Split actually works pretty well with JTN's team. Basically what Power Split does, if you don't know, is it splits the attack and special attack that I have with my opponent. Since Shuckle only has like base 5 or something, basically it completely nerfs my opponent while also giving me like somewhat usable special attack, at least depending on what he switches in. And then I can hit stuff with Earth Power and Hidden Power Ice, because like I said, he's kind of weak to ground ice coverage. And I originally had it on like everything and kind of just eventually narrowed it down to just Shuckle because I thought that would be fun. So getting into what he brought, the only thing that I'm kind of surprised by, I guess, is that he actually brought Sneasel, and that he opted for Entei, although I guess that's not really super surprising since it's probably his main Kartana answer. I am kind of surprised that he didn't bring Koopa because I know that he likes it, and Tyranitar could have helped out Landorus a little bit, but I guess I understand that he didn't want another fighting weakness if he was already bringing Sneasel. So anyway, getting into the battle at hand, my main plan was to basically lead Shuckle, Power Split, get webs up, potentially kill something, and then lead pseudo lead after that as Selgor and try to get some extra hazards up. So that's what I'm going to try to do as he leads Landorus. This is actually fine for me because it allows me to kind of set out what set he has. As I just go for a Power Split. If he ends up staying in after that, I can actually HP Ice and potentially 2-hit KO this thing, which would be nice. But I'll just go for the Power Split as he sets up rocks. Unfortunately, he U-turns as I go for the HP Ice. As he goes into Slowking, that does absolutely nothing, as you can tell. I could Power Split again, but at this point, I would rather kind of get webs up. Because even though Landorus is kind of the most threatening thing at this point, because I assume it's Scarf, and it's levitating, so it's not affected by webs. Everything else on his team is affected by webs, and once it's slowed down, kind of neutralized to the point of Mega Alakazam kind of just running through everything. So since I have an Ogwav Berry, I'll be able to eat it after he goes for the Surf, knocks me down to 20%, back up to 70, and I get webs up, which is nice. At this point, I assume that he's going to go for a Surf again, so I just go Tapu Fini to try to take it. Even though I'm offensive, I actually take it fairly well, I guess. And I can try to fire off a Shadow Ball if I want to. I end up getting a little bit lucky on this Surf as I'm kind of trying to just catch something for damage. That crit kind of ended up mattering because even though I'm offensive, Magearna is really bulky. And doesn't really have the best recovery in the world, so getting a crit on it to basically turn it into a 2-hit KO from there is kind of big. He just Volt Switches out. Luckily he's not Specs, otherwise that probably would have killed me there. As he goes Sceptile. Fun fact, I actually almost outspeed this Sceptile, and depending on if I assume he's max speed. But if he's not, I could actually outspeed the Sceptile since I am a max speed Tapu Fini. I don't really want to chance it though because Tapu Fini is still kind of important at this point in the game, even though it's only at 31% and only at like 20% or something after rocks. I could still potentially take a hit from something and at least kind of use it as a fodder while I try to get another hit off. So I decided to just kind of sack off Shuckle at this point because it's a little less valuable to me. I've already gotten webs up and I'm not really going to be able to Power Split again. So I go ahead and sack Shuckle as he gets this special attack drop. Decide this is probably my best opportunity to try to get spikes up. Again, I'm kind of debating here between Spikes and Toxic Spikes because looking at his team, I would still kind of like Toxic Spikes, just because it guarantees that if he has a Sash or something on Sneasel, it goes down. But I would also rather kind of like the chip damage on Magearna to try to kind of limit the amount of times it can Volt Switch on my team since I don't have a ground type. So I'm going to go for that as he goes into Entei. I really want to Yawn here because Misty Terrain's actually going to end, and I did test this, but you can actually Yawn while Misty Terrain is up, and then Misty Terrain ends and the person goes to sleep. Because the Yawn isn't like considered a status, it just like inflicts sleep a turn later, I guess. So fun little quirk if you were wondering. But I don't end up going for that anyway because my Miltank is actually kind of designed to say Sacred Fires. Like even a Banded Sacred Fire is only doing like 30% to this Miltank, even though it's offensive. So I can come in, get a Milk Drink up, and then potentially start rolling out depending on how excited I get, I guess. But he shows really interesting tech here instead and goes for a Calm Mind. I've personally never seen Calm Mind Entei, so this was kind of taking me back a little bit, so good prep on his part. And as much as I really want to go for a rollout, one rollout into the next rollout isn't actually going to kill. And I can't take two Fire Blast or whatever he wants to go for here. So I instead just have to make the safe play and go for a Life Orb Earthquake instead, which is luckily a 2-hit KO because he's bulky but not that bulky. Luckily doesn't get the burn on Heat Wave, and since I'm thick fat, I'm able to take that. I decided to just play it safe here though because I figure he can probably switch out. I'm just going to go for the Milk Drink to just try to get back up to a little bit of health. It's kind of here I'm wishing I had Ice Punch because Lando was a pretty obvious play, but there was nothing I could really do. I didn't want to lock myself in a rollout, have this thing outspeed and then kill me, even though I got like 5% damage off. So I figured it was probably more valuable for me to just Milk Drink back up to full. So at this point, I kind of figure he's going to go for a U-turn, potentially a Focus Blast or something like that. So I'm just going to go into a Silkwar to try to sack it off, especially since I can't actually get my webs up. He shows Defog, which is a good prep on his part because like I knew Lando got Defog, but I kind of like figured he wasn't going to have it for whatever reason. So at this point, I'm debating if I want to try to get a Spike back up, or if I just want to go for the Hidden Power Ice and try to do damage to this thing. Since this is obviously his Defogger, and I don't really have like a ton of answers to this, I'm going to try to go for an HP Ice, just because I'm pretty guaranteed to outspeed since he's not Scarfed. And I don't think he'll expect me to have HP Ice as my only offensive move, because it is kind of weird, I guess. And he does go for the U-turn. I live on 4, but he just goes into Sneasel anyway. So predicting the Ice Shard because he doesn't actually outspeed at this point. I'm going to go into Miltank, who takes nothing from that. And it's at this point, like, I could go for an Earthquake, predicting something to come in, but I'm actually predicting Landorus to come in, and since it's not Scarfed, I know that I can actually outspeed it alright. So predicting me to be able to get 2 hits of Rollout off and potentially live for a third one, I'm just going to go for it here. He goes straight into Mega Sceptile, which kind of sucks because as you see it only takes 17%, and since the webs aren't up, it's going to outspeed here. So Moulis is pretty much going to drop. I'm surprised he actually went for a Focus Blast though, because I feel like a Leaf Storm probably would have killed. I guess he wasn't 100% sure at this point if I was still Sap Sipper, but I guess from the Ice Shard and Heat Wave damage he could have potentially figured it out maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming that's what happened. But anyway, I get to go Mega Alakazam here and just try to get a Psychic off. I don't think he's going to go hard Sneasel on me here. I am debating for a little while of going for the HP fighting, just predicting the Sneasel to come in. But I, like, honestly just kind of wanted to go for a Psychic, so I did. Luckily he stays in because I trace Lightning Rod. Unfortunately it doesn't kill. I get a Spit Drop and then he misses Leaf Storm. So kind of like a whirlwind of emotions on that turn, I guess. So now there's really no reason for me not to go Hidden Power Fighting, even though it's kind of obvious that he's just going to sack Sceptile at this point. I am a little surprised that he ended up just going Landorus there, because he showed that he wasn't Scarfed earlier in the game, and Sneasel could have potentially pursued trapped me, I guess, but he ended up just going Lando instead, which I guess is fine. So, like, I'm kind of rushing through this battle and, like, sort of forget that he's not Scarfed, I guess. So I just decided to go ahead and sack a Cellcore to try to get a little bit of momentum, because I don't really need it anymore anyway. As he goes into Entei, which is fine, because I could just go Tapu Fini, because I know I outspeed because he's leftovers, and he's shown to be pretty bulky already, which means that I can kill with the Surf. Tapu Fini gets another kill, which is nice, and then he goes Slowking. It's at this point that I'm kind of just resigned Tapu Fini to kill, and then the combination of Kartana and Mega Alakazam is obviously going to have to win me the game here. I'm going to have to be pretty careful with how I do it, but basically the plan at this point is for me to get Shadow Ball damage off on the Slowking, die to it, go Kartana, basically bluff that I have Leaf Blade as he goes into something to resist Leaf Blade, even though everything's kind of weakened at this point, as I go for a sub, and then basically just kill everything from behind a sub. So that's what I'm going to go for here, as I just go for Shadow Ball. It's like a 3-hit KO or so, as he predicts my Kartana coming in. Because I'm Assault Vest, I'm actually able to live that, which is nice, because that means that I get another hit off. Which means that I actually don't even like need Leaf Blade even if I had it. But I can go into Kartana even though he's been spamming Fire Blast, because I'm going to outspeed and kill it. So I'm going to go for a sub. If he stays in a Fire Blast, it's whatever, I lose like 10% health and can just kill this, I guess. But he switches out into Lando. Since this isn't Scarfed, I know I outspeed, and it's kind of GG at this point. Like, he can go into Sneasel at this point, get rid of my sub, sack something, and then go back into Sneasel, but I think I'll be at high enough health that it doesn't matter. And he also doesn't do that. He actually doesn't realize that Sneasel outspeeds at this point. I actually didn't realize that Sneasel outsped at this point because it had only come in once, but apparently it was timid, which meant that it was able to outspeed Kartana. And as you're going to see, an Icicle Crash does actually break the sub, but I don't think Ice Shard would have, and Icicle Crash just means that he would have had to stay in and kind of sack it anyway. So the meme didn't work, but Kartana and Mega Alakazam kind of did what they've done all season, and kind of cleaned up where the rest of the team kind of just weakened stuff, which is fine. That's kind of what the team's designed to do, so I'm alright with it. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, rollout was pretty like awful coverage to bring this week, and I'm perfectly aware of that, but I've really wanted to bring rollout the entire time I've been in the league. And there were at least like 1 or 2 practice games where it actually did get up to the 3rd hit and actually did like respectable damage. So that was fun. It didn't happen this game, but that's okay because Kartana and Mega Alakazam and Tapu Fini all got kills. And since they're the ones that are actually on the leaderboard right now, I'm actually okay with that. Speaking of, I actually kind of want to hopefully post an edit here of the MVP board as of this battle to shout out that Mega Alakazam should be in first as of right now. Crazy hasn't actually battled yet, so if he gets any kills with Jirachi, he'll go back up. But basically, as of this battle at least, Mega Alakazam's in first and Kartana's in 4th. And Tapu Fini is in 11th, I believe. Died with Mega Pidgeot. So I'm very happy with how this draft has gone. Next week we actually take on Crazy Razy, Coach Up, the Swindon Fletchlings. It's going to be an interesting battle because I could potentially play him in the playoffs depending on how the seeding works out. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how to prep for that if I'm battling him in 2 weeks in a row, or 1 week it doesn't really matter and 1 week it does. But we'll see how it works after his battle this week and after the potential seeding results and stuff like that get posted. But either way, we're 9-2 and we're at least the 2nd, if not 3rd seed. So looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited for playoffs because I really think we have a good team this year. But thank you guys for coming by. Please drop a like and subscribe if you're new. I've been trying to post more content lately. It's been a mix of Pokemon and Mario stuff because that's just kind of been the kick lately, I guess. So hopefully you guys don't mind being spammed with both. but I'm hoping to kind of keep the NES videos going for a little bit longer at least, and keeping this playoff run going. So thank you guys for the support, and I will see you next week. Bye. Wrong one.